Elon Musk, a name synonymous with futuristic ventures and disruptive innovation, made a rather unexpected pivot into the heart of American politics. He became a key advisor to President Donald Trump. This wasn't just a casual consultancy. Musk was tasked with a monumental undertaking, spearheading the newly formed Department of Government Efficiency, or DOGE as it was quickly and perhaps cheekily dubbed. The mission was clear, at least in its initial pronouncements. He was there to slash through the dense thicket of federal bureaucracy, a task many before him had promised but few had dared to truly attempt with such vigor. Washington insiders watched, some with skepticism, others with a glint of hope, or perhaps fear. The president, never one for subtlety, had found in Musk a figure who matched his own penchant for grand gestures and bold statements. Musk, for his part, seemed to embrace the role with an almost messianic zeal. He was seen around the White House often in a Doge t-shirt, ready to evangelize the virtues of lean operations. He had, after all, built empires by challenging established norms. Why should the federal government be any different? He spoke of efficiency, of cutting waste, of making government work like one of his sleek modern companies. The initial target for savings was a staggering $2 trillion, a figure that echoed Trump's own larger-than-life promises to the American people. Musk's arrival was undoubtedly a spectacle. He had previously thrown considerable financial weight behind Trump's candidacy, a sum reported to be at least $250 million. This wasn't just an ideological alignment, it was a significant investment, and Trump in turn had shown public support for Musk, even turning the White House driveway into a temporary showroom for Tesla when the company faced sales headwinds. It was a relationship built on mutual admiration, or perhaps mutual utility. Musk in February 2025 had even declared, "The more I've gotten to know President Trump, the more I like the guy. Frankly, I love him." Such pronouncements only fueled the narrative of a powerful new force within the administration. The establishment, however, remained wary. Musk was an outsider, a disruptor by nature. His methods were unconventional, his pronouncements often unfiltered, delivered directly to the public via his X platform. He wasn't a creature of Washington, and that was both his strength and, ultimately, a source of friction. The initial phase was one of bold declarations and the promise of a radical overhaul. The very idea of a Department of Government Efficiency headed by Elon Musk sent shivers down the spines of long-serving bureaucrats and ripples of excitement through circles eager for a smaller, less intrusive government. The stage was set for a dramatic reshaping of the federal landscape, or so it seemed at the outset. Once installed, Musk and Doge didn't waste time. The rhetoric of efficiency soon translated into tangible and often harsh realities for many federal employees. Reports quickly emerged of thousands of layoffs across various government agencies. Musk's approach was described by some as the evisceration of government agencies. He was not there to tinker around the edges, he was there to dismantle and rebuild, or perhaps just dismantle. The initial shockwaves were significant, sending a clear message that business as usual was over. The mandate was to cut and cut deeply, and Musk appeared to be taking that mandate to heart with an almost surgical, if brutal, precision. The ambitious financial targets, however, began to shift. The initial promise to carve out $2 trillion in savings from the federal budget proved to be a monumental, perhaps impossible task. This astronomical figure was later revised downwards, first to $1 trillion, and then more pragmatically, to a still substantial $150 billion. This recalibration hinted at the immense complexities and entrenched nature of government spending. It was one thing to talk about efficiency in the abstract, it was another entirely to wring out savings from a system designed for inertia. The shrinking target suggested a collision with reality, a dawning understanding of the beast Musk was attempting to tame. Despite the revised targets, the impact of Doge was undeniable. Musk's team identified specific areas for significant reductions. The White House began sending proposed rescissions to Capitol Hill, aiming to solidify some of these cuts. Among the notable targets were organizations like the Corporation for Public Broadcasting, which funds NPR and PBS, facing a proposed cut of $1.1 billion. Foreign assistance was also in the crosshairs, with a suggested reduction of $8.3 billion. These were not minor adjustments. They represented a fundamental rethinking of federal priorities, driven by Musk's efficiency-first doctrine and supported, at least in principle, by the president who had appointed him. The process was relentless. Musk, ever the engineer, approached government bloat as a problem to be solved with data, algorithms, and a willingness to make unpopular decisions. He was frequently seen poring over spreadsheets, challenging long-held assumptions, and pushing for radical changes. His style was direct, often abrasive, a stark contrast to the more diplomatic, or some would say stagnant, culture of Washington. While his supporters cheered on the aggressive cost-cutting, critics worried about the loss of institutional knowledge, the impact on public services, and the human cost of such rapid and extensive layoffs. The Department of Government Efficiency was living up to its name, but the efficiency came at a considerable price. The catalyst for Musk's eventual departure appeared to be President Trump's signature legislative agenda, dubbed the Big Beautiful Bill. This omnibus package, encompassing tax cuts and enhanced immigration enforcement, among other measures, was Trump's vision for his term. However, for Musk, the architect of fiscal discipline, it represented a fundamental contradiction. In an interview released just a day before his resignation announcement, Musk didn't mince words. He called the bill a massive spending bill, one that he believed would significantly increase the federal deficit and, crucially, undermine the work of his own Department of Government Efficiency. This public critique was a bold move, a direct challenge to the president's prized legislation. Musk's criticism was pointed and memorable. "I think a bill can be big or it could be beautiful, but I don't know if it could be both," he quipped, a clear jab at Trump's branding of the legislation. This wasn't just a disagreement over policy details, it was a fundamental clash of philosophies. Musk had dedicated his tenure to shrinking the government's financial footprint, only to see a legislative package emerge from the same administration that threatened to undo those efforts, and then some. The Congressional Budget Office's preliminary estimates seemed to validate Musk's concerns, suggesting the tax provisions alone would swell federal deficits by a staggering $3.8 trillion over a decade. While the bill also included spending reductions in areas like Medicaid and food stamps, projected to be slightly over $1 trillion over 10 years, the net effect, according to independent analyses like that from the Committee for a Responsible Federal Budget, was an addition of around $3 trillion to the national debt, including interest. For a man obsessed with fiscal prudence, this was an untenable situation. The Big Beautiful Bill was, in Musk's eyes, anything but beautiful from a budgetary perspective. It represented a return to the kind of fiscal irresponsibility he had been brought in to combat. The growing deficit numbers were a red flag he could not ignore. President Trump, for his part, defended his legislative agenda, even as Musk's criticisms became public. On May 28, 2025, Trump acknowledged he wasn't entirely pleased with certain aspects of the bill, but was thrilled by many others, suggesting further modifications could be made. However, the bill had already passed the House and was under debate in the Senate. Musk's public pronouncements, coupled with his formal resignation stating his scheduled time as a special government employee was ending, signaled a clear break. The man who had once professed love for the president was now publicly at odds with his flagship policy, a rift that proved too wide to bridge. Elon Musk's departure from the Trump administration, announced on the evening of May 28, 2025, leaves a significant vacuum, particularly concerning the future of government efficiency efforts. Musk was not just an advisor. He was the driving force and public face of DOGE. His exit raises immediate questions about the sustainability and continued momentum of the cost-cutting initiatives he championed. While Speaker Mike Johnson quickly voiced support, promising the House was eager and ready to act on DOGE's findings and would pursue more spending cuts, the absence of Musk's singular, relentless focus could prove detrimental to the cause he so vigorously pursued. The implications for President Trump's administration are multifaceted. On one hand, it removes a prominent and at times controversial figure whose methods, while aligned with Trump's disruptive brand, also generated considerable friction. On the other hand, Musk provided a veneer of technocratic competence and a powerful narrative of tackling government waste. His departure, especially under the cloud of disagreement over the Big Beautiful Bill, could be perceived as a sign of internal discord and a weakening of the administration's commitment to fiscal conservatism, despite protestations to the contrary. The optics of losing such a high-profile advisor over fiscal concerns are certainly not ideal. Moreover, the fate of DOGE's specific recommendations now hangs in a more precarious balance. While the White House is reportedly still pushing for some rescissions, such as those targeting public broadcasting and foreign aid, The political will to see these through without Musk's forceful advocacy might wane. Government agencies, breathing a collective sigh of relief at the departure of their chief inquisitor, may find it easier to resist further evisceration. The bureaucratic antibodies, always strong in Washington, could begin to reassert themselves, slowly rolling back the changes or simply stalling future reforms. The question remains, who, if anyone, will now champion this cause with the same intensity? Ultimately, Musk's Washington saga is a cautionary tale of ambition, ideology, and the intractable nature of government. He arrived with grand plans and a formidable reputation, but even he found the levers of federal spending and the realities of political compromise difficult to master. His exit, while framed as the end of a scheduled term, clearly coincided with a fundamental policy disagreement. As he steps back, also stating he will reduce his political spending because I think I've done enough, the debate over the big beautiful bill and its fiscal consequences will continue to unfold, now without one of its most prominent internal critics. The pursuit of government efficiency, for now, has lost its most famous and perhaps most fervent advocate.
I hope you found this video useful. Follow me right here on YouTube for more great content daily. Download my international best-selling book, Be Good, Be Brief, Be Gone, for absolutely free at growfast.club. I say again, download my book at growfast.club for all of my 7-figure growth hacks. Get your copy now while it's still free.
There it is. Magnum. Holy moly.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for!
Dear God. It's beautiful.